Hello and welcome to my overview of my world record run of this stupid game. I got a low 2 minutes 44 seconds, so it's pretty short from the world record. Like it's a pretty big time save, and I would just like to explain like how anyone could potentially beat this because it's pretty difficult, I would say, to like see any time save in this run. So I just want to show you because I think there's a bit of time save. I think that a task bot could probably save 2.5 seconds, and a normal player, after a lot of time, could save maybe 1 second. And I'll show where those time saves are because this run isn't perfect. So let's just get right into it. There's nothing here. Right here, you can instead of going for the flick here, you can just spam click and it'll place your cursor in the center at the beginning, or you can spam click and move your mouse around and it'll take a picture, and you just have to hope that you clicked on him, and that'll save exactly zero point 0.4 seconds if you do it. The only problem is that you'll have a lot less runs. Like you'll just be resetting and watching these 12 seconds over and over until you actually get it, and then once you get it, you'll have to go for all the other RNG points. So this is like a really hard zero point 0.4 seconds to save. That's why no one goes for it. That's why like it's a last resort kind of. But if you feel like you want to sit here and waste all your time, like I did to an extent, but waste more time, then you can go for the 0.4 second time save. It is a lot in comparison to the bad luck you can get. Right here is perfect. There's like no time that you can save. This part right here with the square, though, it looks like it's perfect, but something that you're gonna have to start doing, especially when you get to like a high level where you start getting like 246s and then eventually 245s, you're going to have to start predicting when certain characters are going to do certain things and then getting the first few frames. So right here, I didn't get the first few frames. Like you'll see, he does like a startup. Like he has a few frames before he's screaming, and then he screams, and you can take a picture at any point. It's just your reaction time, which is why, like you see, I took the picture here. I could have taken it probably zero point 0.3 seconds earlier, which is uh, when I run it and I've gotten good enough times like this, I when I get the beginning frame, I usually am at minus 0 0.4 on my splits, and splits are really important. You should have splits if you're getting to a point where you're like close to the top three or close to world record. You should have splits because this shows you how. Look, I got a 0 0.1, I got a minus 0 0.1, which means that if he screamed at the first frame that he could possibly have screamed, I could have taken a picture on the first frame and gotten a minus 0 0.4, which means there's 0 0.3 seconds of time save technically for this, and it is time save that might be able to like push you over the edge depending. It's just all little time saves that'll add up, but all of them are hard in their own right. So you're gonna have to choose. You're gonna have to choose, and you're gonna have to get better at these predictions. Like look here. Right here, he does walk for a bit. I'll tell you how much. So here is probably like zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.1 of reaction time, but the other like zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.1 is from him walking. I when I get a perfect fear, like it's usually when the square is right on top of him and he instantly does it, and I'm just mashing as soon as I am able to take a picture. It's usually I save 1.1 to 1.2 seconds. So right here, I lost zero point 0.3 or zero point 0.4 off of a perfect run. So there's already the mashing at the start, which is the 0 0.4, and then the crazy square, which is 0 0.3, and then the fear, which is 0 0.4. Now, the mashing is pretty unrealistic. So you have 0 0.8 seconds off of a perfect run so far. which means you can get a 243 just by doing everything else. And the fear's done right here, and then the snub I think is the same. Yeah, he walks for like the exact same amount of time, which is like 0.2, 0.3, and then right here is pretty perfect. Like, it's pretty much one of the first frames, and that's because reaction time doesn't come into play because you're sitting there waiting for the animation to play, because you can't take a picture as soon as he makes his reaction. You gotta wait for this. This is an exact frame that you should go for. It's pretty easy in comparison. And on the snub, I probably lost 0.2 to 0.3 just on walking and nothing else. Now, I'm pretty sure yelling is perfect if I'm not remembering correctly. Yeah, it's pretty perfect. Because your reaction time, if you have splits and if you have a split like this, where you have a perfect yelling, you can probably say 0.1. If you predict it, if he's on top of a square, and you can predict it by looking at your timer, you could probably say 0.1. But why would you do that? That's a little excessive. So right here, I'm pretty sure this is perfect. Yeah, because this is pretty luck dependent also, because you usually don't get a scream on your first, like, on the first second that you can take a picture. So while it's pretty unlikely, if you see that happen, you can mash, and if not, you're going to have to look for the circle either around your field of vision as soon as it zooms out, or you can just hope and pray that any random passerby that are on the sides just walk towards the angry ones. But it's still kind of difficult when you're trying to predict these things when the camera's so zoomed in. And this is a real, like, this is a really defining split for the run, because you see it saves a full half a second on my time, just because of how there's only 5 angry people and there's not that many passerby that they can pass. So that is also, like, there's no time save there, but you have to get that in order to get a run like this. And then yelling 3, I think, is the same. Just because there's more of them, you usually match in the center and you're fine. Yep. I think that split is perfect. I think the 0.1 is human error. That's the same. And then these 2 splits right here would really help, because as you can see, absolutely no one is screaming right now. So I have to hesitate and then go over here. So this is like 0.2, 0.3 seconds again. But all these little things will add up and, of course, create a task. But if you have any of these things, could beat world record if you have the same amount of luck after resetting over and over. So this 0.2, just, it goes in with all the other 0.2s that you can save. The 0.3s, the 0.4s. And this right here, this split that I have, the split that I'm running against is the perfect time to take a picture. So as you can see, it says 2.1 on yelling 5, which means that at 2.1, which is why I have the timer going, when those 2 times are the same, you take a picture, and then that is the earliest that you can take a picture. So anything before that won't trigger, and anything after that's time loss, which, as you can see, I have 0.2 seconds of time loss here just because I was playing it safe. And once again, that's just another little thing that you can do, and it's another little thing that you have to be mindful of when timing it for yourself, because when you're trying to time that, it's kind of hard, because it's like, it's an arbitrary amount of time before he shoots the gun. I don't know, like, why that is, that it still plays even though you're in a picture. So you should probably have some sort of timer, some sort of counter, like I did, because I decided to do that after a bit, just like how I decided to add splits, just because it makes it so much easier to like see what you're running against, especially when you're starting to run against perfect times. Like how some of these times are perfect, it should be pretty, like, you should pretty much try to see the times that aren't perfect and try to get them perfect just for a world record run. So, in conclusion, you have about 2 seconds of time saved from the original world record. And in order to get that, you just have to do one of these few things that I mentioned that will save you a bit of milliseconds, along with the rest of the stuff that's performed in this run, like the fear and the crazy square and the snub that are all right next to each other, all characters right on top of characters, doing their events immediately, mashing most of the time during yelling segments and other stuff like that. And this is basically for top level players who already are like resetting and getting these things very often. Like if you get the crazy square very often, you could easily begin to start predicting him. And then once you get enough good crazy square splits, you'll get them paired up with the fear, which the fear will be right on top of him. And then once you do enough of those, the snub will be on top. And then the yelling, all you need with the yelling is when there's 5 people, and when it's that yelling 2 split, it's going to be really hard to get an instant mash. So that might be where your time loss is. I kind of alluded to that earlier. That should be where you lose time, I would say. Just because you're resetting all these beginning splits, you can't reset yelling 2 with such a good run unless you want to try out all the other things again. So yeah, I would say you lose time yelling 2, and then yelling 5 in the gun, the murder split, you could theoretically be more risky and save that time back. So all in all, if you can beat world record by doing all those things, and if you're just trying to get better, like I think anyone can run a 249 or earlier if you have no frame drops, which is easy. You don't have a bad computer. Anyone can run a 249. I think a 247 is where you get pretty high level. And by high level, I just mean you reset enough that you get these good things. But also that you're predicting. Because once you start predicting, you can get 245, 244 times. And I feel like I will see more 244s, hopefully, as people start running the game more and just getting good enough luck after running for so long. So I wish good luck to anyone who decides to do something like this, and anyone who wants to pour in the time and effort that is required to beat this run, get a 243, knock me out of first place. So good luck to anybody who wants to try that, I guess. Also, you should like and subscribe.